I will never forget the way she said it. At the family dinner table, with roast chicken still steaming and my grandchildren passing plates, my daughter cleared her throat and spoke as if announcing dessert. "We are selling your house. I urgently need the money for our renovation." The clatter of forks stopped. Her husband's smile froze halfway. She reached across the table, took the keys from my purse and added for everyone to hear. "You are out of touch with modern life, Mother. You will not need such a big place anyway." The words cut through me sharper than any knife. 25 years of mortgage payments, 25 years of painting walls, replacing pipes, saving every receipt to prove I could carry the load. My house, my only safety. And she took the keys like I was a child who could not be trusted with them. I sat silent, the noise of the table resuming around me, her words replaying in my mind. "We are selling your house. You are out of touch with modern life." That night, when the house was empty again, I sat at the kitchen table where her words still seemed to hang in the air. The keys were gone from my purse, and the silence pressed on me like a weight. For 25 years, this place had been my work and my refuge. I remembered the day I signed the mortgage papers, the ink shaking because I was alone after my husband left. Every month since then I paid faithfully, even when I worked double shifts at the hospital. I kept all the receipts in a worn blue folder, the ink fading but the numbers clear. $865 each month, never missed, never late. I thought of the repairs done with my own hands, scraping wallpaper until my fingers bled, laying down laminate in the hallway, painting ceilings white so the children would not see the water stains from the roof. I thought of the broken furnace in 2004 when I slept in 3 sweaters until I saved enough to pay the repairman $1,600 in cash. And I thought of her, my daughter, who used to sleep on the sofa when her marriage broke down the first time. I cared for her children 3 winters of school mornings, hot cereal waiting on the table. I drove them to practice, I sat with them when they were sick. She never counted those hours, but I did. On the back of an old notebook I wrote it all down. The transfers I made to her account, $5,000 in 2012 when she said they would lose the car, $3,200 in 2014 for braces, $7,500 in 2017 for what she called business equipment. More recent transfers too, $12,000 during the pandemic, when she said she could not pay rent. I totaled the page. Just under $40,000. My retirement drained piece by piece, disguised as help. I sat in my own kitchen, the clock ticking, and wondered how she could stand there with her voice so smooth, her face so calm, and take from me the only thing left that was mine. In that quiet, a loneliness opened inside me. My daughter was not just asking for money. She was erasing me, the life I had built, the proof of every sacrifice. Her words echoed again. "We are selling your house. You are out of touch with modern life." Her tone had changed. No longer sharp, no longer public. She came alone, without her husband, carrying a folder of papers and a smile too soft to be true. "Mother," she said as if the past week had not happened, "I need you to sign a power of attorney. It is only to save time at the realtor's office. All this paperwork is confusing, and you cannot keep up with it anyway. This will make everything easier." She placed the folder in front of me. I did not touch it. I looked at her hands, manicured, a new gold bracelet on her wrist. I wondered what had been pawned to pay for it. Not her possessions. Not her husband's. Likely mine soon enough. I said nothing. She filled the silence with her practiced voice. "You will not have to bother with documents. You will not even need to show up at the office. It will save us all so much time. Trust me. It is just paperwork." I nodded slowly, but inside something shifted. That night, when the house was silent, I rose from bed and walked through each room. I touched the walls, the frames of the doors, the marks on the kitchen door frame where I had measured her height year by year. She had been 7 the first time she reached the counter without standing on a chair. 11 when she stormed upstairs and slammed the door so hard it cracked the wood. 16 when she cried on the floor of her bedroom, broken by her first heartbreak. This was not just square meters. This was my life in brick and plaster, paint and repairs. This was 25 years of sacrifice, the one place that proved I had stood on my own feet after being left with nothing. Her words returned steady and cruel. "You are out of touch with modern life." I stood in the living room with my arms folded. Out of touch or not, this house was mine. The next morning, I called a lawyer whose card I had saved in a drawer for years. His name was Robert Klein, and when I explained the situation, his voice stayed calm. Do not sign anything. Bring me the papers she gave you. I did. He read them silently, page after page. Finally, he looked up. This is not just about saving time. A general power of attorney would give her control to sign, sell, and transfer without your consent. Once you put your name here, you will lose the house. My stomach turned. He pushed the folder back toward me. You must protect yourself. We will check for liens, debts, and we will arrange an appraisal. If you want, I will bring in a realtor I trust. But do not sign. I thanked him, my hand steady for the first time in weeks. 2 days later, a realtor named Sandra walked through my house with a clipboard. She tapped walls, measured rooms, opened the basement door. After 2 hours, she sat me down at the kitchen table. Your house is worth at least $315,000, she said plainly. The market is strong. There are no liens, no debts attached. It is yours free and clear. I felt something settle in me. Proof. Evidence. Numbers that could not be argued with. That evening, when my daughter called again, her voice was less soft. Mother, have you signed yet? We need to act now. The project will collapse without this money. You will be safe in a studio. We already looked at one for you. It is modern, convenient. You will thank me later. I did not raise my voice. I did not plead. I will not sign, I said. There was a pause. Then her tone hardened. You are being difficult. You do not understand business. You will ruin everything for me. I listened to her threats, her sighs, her rehearsed phrases. When she hung up, I placed the receiver back in its cradle and sat at my table, the same table where I had counted coins for school trips, where I had written checks for her tuition, where I had once believed that generosity would be enough. I folded my hands and whispered into the silence. My money is off the table. The house was asleep. The clock in the kitchen ticked steadily, measuring seconds, while I sat in the darkened living room without switching on a lamp. Outside, a few cars passed, their headlights sweeping pale strips across the walls I had painted with my own hands. I lifted my eyes to the ceiling. Along the line of plaster, I could still see the faint scar from when a piece had collapsed years ago. I mixed the mortar myself, stood on the ladder until midnight, patched it alone. At the time I told myself it is only square meters, just shelter. But in that stillness I realized the truth. It was not just square meters. It was the body of my life, pressed into brick and wood. Every corner carried my imprint. The kitchen held the smell of stews, pies, late-night talks with my daughter when she still trusted me with her secrets. The living room remembered the first steps of my grandchildren. The backyard held the maple tree I planted the year I finally paid half the mortgage. All of it was evidence of years no one else could claim. This house is me. To sell it would be to erase me. That night I made my decision, though I told no one. I would not let it go. The next morning I opened a drawer and found a faded business card I had kept for years, just in case. A lawyer. I called. My voice was calm, stripped of emotion. My daughter wants me to sign a power of attorney for the sale of my house. I have doubts. I need clarity. His answer was brief. Bring me the papers. Do not sign anything. 2 days later, I sat across from him in a quiet office. I carried a folder of documents, deed, mortgage papers, tax receipts, even photographs from past repairs. He read them slowly, page by page. At last he looked up. Your title is clear. No liens, no debt. But the power of attorney she gave you, if you had signed, you would have surrendered complete control. Once in her hands, you could not stop the sale. The words chilled me more than anything my daughter had said. When I stepped outside, the air felt different. Cold but honest. I did not stop there. That evening, I called a realtor a neighbor had once recommended. She came 2 days later, walking through each room with practiced eyes, measuring walls, tapping on plaster, making notes. After 2 hours, she sat with me at the kitchen table. You have a solid property, she said. On today's market, it would fetch a strong price. This is not a burden. It is an asset. The word asset struck me deeply. Not wasted space, not something to discard, but the result of a lifetime's work. That night, I opened a notebook and wrote 3 lines. The house is my work and my memory. I must not sign anything. Check everything to the end. For the first time in weeks, my hands were steady. The decision was mine alone, and I felt it settle in me like a foundation stone. The first time I said no, it was over the phone. My daughter's voice grew sharp, then shrill. She had expected me to fold as I always did. Instead, I answered with steady words. I will not sign. The house is not for sale. There was silence, then a quick breath, and she hung up. 2 days later, they arrived in person. Not just her and her husband, but 2 men I had never met. They wore dusty boots and carried themselves like they belonged in someone else's living room. One unrolled a set of building plans across my dining table without asking. The other paced from wall to wall, measuring with his eyes. Her husband smiled as if it were all a friendly visit. These are our builder friends. We need to act now. Delays will ruin everything. You cannot keep up with modern paperwork, and that is fine. We will handle it. But we need you to sign. I looked at the plans spread across my table. The same table where I once helped my daughter with her school essays, the same wood where my grandchildren had colored with crayons. Now strange hands dragged pencils across it, carving up my future as if I were already gone. Mother, my daughter said in a rehearsed voice, we already found a studio for you. Bright, efficient, close to the park. We toured it last week. You will thank us later. No, I said. The man with the plans tapped his pencil. If you wait, material costs rise. You lose your window. You do not want that burden. This house is not a burden, I answered. Her husband leaned forward. You do not understand. This is how families build wealth, by moving assets. You will live more comfortably, and the money will give Emma a chance to succeed. Comfort is not the same as respect, I said. And the house is not an asset for anyone else to spend. The smile drained from his face. You are being selfish. I folded my hands on the table. I am being careful. They pressed harder. The builders talked of deadlines, suppliers, discounts. My daughter's voice cut through theirs, sharp with anger. Do you want to ruin me? After all I have done for you? I thought of the notebook in my drawer with every transfer carefully listed. $39, $700 in total. But I said nothing. I let the silence carry my refusal. Finally I stood. This meeting is over. The builders muttered, rolled up their plans, and left without shaking my hand. My daughter followed them out, her face tight with fury. You will regret this, she said at the door. That night the phone calls began. At first hers, then her husband's. When I stopped answering, the numbers came blocked. Each voicemail was another attack. You are confused. You are not thinking straight. You are hurting your own grandchildren. You owe us this after everything we sacrificed for you. I did not argue. I simply deleted each message. But they did not stop with calls. Soon cousins rang my phone, then an old family friend, then even my sister. Each one carried the same script, as if reading from notes. Be reasonable. A studio will be easier. You cannot keep up with the responsibilities of a house. This is modern life. I listened, then repeated the only truth that mattered. My house is not for sale. My money is off the table. By the third day, the pressure thickened like smoke. My daughter sent a message. If you do not sign, we will go to court for guardianship. You are not capable of managing this on your own. I held the phone steady. I thought of the receipts in my blue folder, the mortgage payments made every month without fail, the roof repairs I arranged, the furnace I paid for in cash when no one else offered to help. I thought of the lawyer's words. Do not sign anything. I wrote back. I am managing. Do not contact me again about selling this house. Still, they tried one more tactic. Late one evening, there was a knock on my door. The 2 builder men stood on the porch. We just need to inspect the basement, one called. Insurance requires it. I did not open the door. You have no appointment, no authority. Leave my property, I said through the wood. Their boots scraped against the porch, then retreated. When the night was quiet again, I stood by the window and looked out at the maple tree in the yard. Its branches reached high, strong despite storms and years. I thought of the day I planted it, my hands deep in the soil, believing roots would hold me steady. And now, as pressure circled closer each day, I repeated the truth that rooted me. This house is mine. My money is off the table. My life is not for sale. When people want something that does not belong to them, they press until the walls shake. That week, the pressure never let up. Calls, visits, guilt. Each time I answered with the same words. I will not sign. My money is off the table. But even a steady voice is not enough when others circle like vultures. I knew I needed proof, something stronger than my word. Sandra, the realtor, came back one afternoon carrying a gray binder and a laptop. She set them on my kitchen table and spoke without preamble. I told you your house was worth strong money. Now I will show you why your daughter's project is not. She opened the binder. Pages of figures, statements, filings. I recognized my daughter's company name at the top. Fable Build LLC. Sandra tapped the first page. These are state records. Last year's revenue. $281,400. Expenses. $338,900. That is a net loss of $57,500. This year worse, revenues lower, expenses higher. A net loss of $86,400. It is a money pit. She turned to the next page. Here is a filing from a supplier. March this year, they secured legal interest in the company's receivables. Any money that enters they can seize first. If your daughter received funds from your house, those funds would vanish into old debts before she touched them. I kept my hands folded on the table. She continued, her voice cool, professional. They are also running a revolving credit debt of $38,440 at nearly 22% interest. They have been making only minimum payments. It is unsustainable. Your house would not save them. It would only be swallowed. She placed a final sheet in front of me. My eyes froze on it, screenshots from a group chat. Blue and gray speech bubbles with familiar names. I read carefully. We move mom into the studio by July. She will complain, but once the listing goes live she has no choice. Do not tell her the real numbers. She will not understand. Just say the market is falling and this is mercy. Keys first. Control the keys, control the timeline. Sandra spoke gently. One of their project partners shared this before leaving the group. The timestamps are intact. These words cannot be denied. I sat in silence. I had always known there was more than just renovation behind their urgency, but seeing it in writing, the casual way they plotted my removal, was a wound deeper than any raised voice. I lifted my eyes to Sandra. So if I gave them my house, it would not help? It would destroy you and not save them, she answered. I closed the binder and held it close as if it were a shield. Proof. At last, proof. That night I laid everything on the dining table. The appraisal showing the true value of my house, the state filings of losses, the creditor's legal claim, the screenshots of their own words. Around them I spread my own folder, 25 years of receipts, every $865 payment made, every transfer I had written to my daughter when she asked. I looked at the numbers as if they were soldiers on a battlefield. Quiet, steady, undeniable. The phone rang again, my daughter's number. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was a practiced mixture of anger and sweetness. Mother, you are confused. Everyone agrees the house must be sold. You cannot live in the past. Sign the papers and we will handle everything. If you refuse, we will have no choice but to take legal action. Do not make us your enemies. I listened to the message twice. Then I erased it. Later that evening my brother called. His voice carried the authority of a man who always sided with the loudest person in the room. We are meeting Sunday. Family dinner. Bring your documents. This will be resolved. Very well, I said. I will bring my documents. When I ended the call, I walked through my house one more time. My hand brushed the marks on the doorframe where my daughter's height had been measured year after year. I touched the worn banister I had sanded smooth myself. I looked out at the maple tree, tall now, roots deep in the soil. I whispered the words that had become my refrain. My money is off the table. My house is not for sale. This time I carried proof. And proof does not bend. The family gathered on Sunday evening, as if it were an ordinary meal. Roast beef steamed on platters, children's laughter spilled from the next room, and the clatter of cutlery filled the pauses where words should have been. But the air was heavy. Everyone knew why we had come. My daughter sat across from me, her posture straight, her husband at her side. His pen clicked in his hand as if he could not wait to sign away what was not his. My brother, self-appointed moderator, raised his voice above the noise. "We are here to resolve this matter," he declared. "Mother is being stubborn. The house is too much for her. It is time to make a practical decision. We should support Emma in her business. It will help the whole family in the long run." All eyes turned to me, waiting for my resistance, waiting for my silence. Instead, I reached into my bag and placed the gray binder on the table. The room grew quiet. "You want decisions?" I said evenly. "Then let us look at facts." I opened the binder to the first page and slid it to the center. This is the appraisal. My house is valued between $315,000 and $330,000. It is free of debt. No liens. No burdens. It belongs to me alone. My daughter shifted in her chair but said nothing. I turned the page to the state filings. "Here is your company, Emma. Fable Build LLC. Last year you lost $57,500. This year, $86,400. That is not growth. That is collapse." Her husband leaned forward, his pen tapping. "Those are temporary numbers. Every business has ups and downs." I ignored him and laid down the next sheet. "Here is a legal filing from your supplier. They hold first claim on your receivables. If money enters your business account, it goes to them before you see it. And here is your revolving debt, $38,000 at 22% interest. You have been paying only the minimum for months." Gasps moved around the table. My brother's confident smile faltered. My daughter's face grew pale. I placed the last set of papers on top. Screenshots, black and white against the tablecloth. "And here are your words taken from your own group chat. We move Mom into the studio by July. Keys first. Control the keys, control the timeline. Do not tell her the real numbers." The room was silent except for the tick of the wall clock. My daughter's voice finally broke the stillness. "Those are out of context." I met her eyes. "The context is simple. You took my keys in front of my grandchildren and told me I am out of touch with modern life. You pressured me to sign away everything I worked for. You planned my removal before I even knew. That is the context." Her husband slammed his pen on the table. "You cannot expose private messages like this. It is defamation." I looked at him calmly. Truth is not defamation. And numbers are not private. They are public record. My brother tried one last time. "Mother, think of your age. A studio would be easier. Emma is only trying to help. Why make enemies in your own family?" I opened a blue folder and spread a line of receipts across the table. Mortgage stubs, 25 years of them, each marked paid. Then I placed a notebook page on top, where I had written the transfers, $5,000 in 2012, $7,500 in 2017, $12,000 in 2020, and all the others totaling $39,700. "This is what I paid," I said. "This is what I gave. I am finished. My money is off the table." No one spoke. My daughter stared at the papers, her lips pressed tight. Her husband's face reddened, but the fury had nowhere to land. My brother shifted uncomfortably, no longer able to play the voice of reason. I closed the binder, gathered the receipts back into their folder and stood. This house is not for sale. This discussion is over. From the kitchen came the sound of a spoon clattering to the floor, followed by children's laughter. The sound was light, unbroken by lies or debts. I walked out of the dining room with my documents under my arm, leaving behind silence thick as stone. The morning after the family dinner, I went straight to my lawyer's office. I handed him the binder and my notebook. He read everything carefully, then asked only one question. "Do you want security or silence?" "Security," I said. By the end of the week, the trust was complete. My house was placed under legal protection with clear clauses. No sale, no transfer, no encumbrance without my written consent. If I became incapacitated, a professional trustee, not a relative, would step in. A penalty clause was added for any attempt to coerce or mislead me. The papers were signed, notarized, sealed. For the first time in months, I breathed freely. When my daughter called again, her voice was sharp. "Mother, you are ruining everything. Do you even care what this does to us?" I answered plainly, My house is protected. My money is off the table. If you wish to see me, you may visit by invitation. But this topic is closed. She tried tears, she tried silence, she tried guilt. None of it moved me. I had proof, I had law, and I had boundaries. 2 weeks later, I rented out the south bedroom to a student from the university. He paid $650 a month. He carried his books upstairs quietly, said thank you when I cooked extra soup, and reminded me that not all young people see parents as banks to be drained. The house grew peaceful again. In the evenings, I sat in my garden under the maple tree, listening to the leaves move in the wind. The laughter of children next door drifted over the fence, light and unburdened. I did not seek revenge. I did not seek reconciliation on their terms. I had my home, my income, my rules. Love is not money. Respect is not bought with silence. And truth, once spoken, cannot be erased. I closed the gate behind me, locked it, and walked back into my house, mine and mine alone. You stayed with me until the last word, and for that I am deeply grateful. If you want to hear more, please subscribe. And if this story touched you, leave a like, it truly helps. Write me in the comments where you are watching from because I love knowing who is out there listening.